Ali, Ali. Ali, Ali. Ali, Ali. Yeah. I praise the Lord for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank the Lord for his blessings. I'll leave us the circle 7. I praise the Lord for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank the Lord for his blessings. I'll leave us the circle 7. I praise the Lord for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank the Lord for his blessings. I'll leave us the circle 7. I praise the Lord for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank the Lord for his blessings. I'll leave us the circle 7. I praise the Lord for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank the Lord for his blessings. I'll leave us the circle 7. I praise the Lord for these lessons. I'm striving to be the message, and I thank the Lord for his blessings. I'll leave us the circle 7. Islam, Moorish America want to rise upon the 7. Give all praises to the great God, Allah, our Father God, Allah, and honors to his holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. We give honors to our Moorish kin once again, here, there, and everywhere, and therefore honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. We give honors to our Grand National Seal, Grand National Emblem, National Flag, Divine Constitution and bylaws, and honors to all of you who are indeed a living manifestation and personification of everything. And I do mean everything that our holy prophet brought to make us a nation. We want to give honors to all of our family, wherever they may be coming from in their walk of life. To all of our family, we give you honors and greet you with the honors and the highest honors of the ancestors. So this is a powerful demonstration, family. We have a grand drawing to bring forth to you, today. And our subject title is dealing with why we measure time by cycle ages and not the Gregorian timeline, because there's always, a claim that is being brought against us, when it comes to dealing with this Gregorian calendar, whereas you have those who out here, I would say they are very hypocritical, in coming forth, because on one hand, it would tell you they have no belief, in religion, or religiosity. But at the same token, they are trying to push a timeline off on our people that is dealing with a calendar that's based off of religiosity. And anybody that know anything about the Gregorian calendar know that the Gregorian calendar was created by the Roman Catholic Church. So if you're going to take anything religious and throw it away, then you got to throw it all away. You can't pick and choose when you want to accept some parts of it and reject other parts of it. And I'm speaking to those who claim to be, atheistic, amongst our people. Those of you who are proclaiming to be atheistic and you like to criticize our people and say that they are converts, you see, and that they are basically people that are stuck on religion, but yet when it comes to being something that is suitable for you, where you are able to utilize something to your benefit, then you want to move the goalposts. You want to switch the narrative, so to speak. So the time of you being able to hide between the gray line area is over with, because we're going to expose you. Many of those, they are among our people who attack my premise and my position when I tell them that I don't go by the Gregorian calendar. And I don't use the Gregorian calendar because it ain't necessary to bring forth the information. Now, for those who would like to take the information I have and then put it in a timeline of the Gregorian calendar, we'll let them do that if they want to do that. But what we deal with, as opposed to what they would like to come up with in the claims of absolute time, we deal with the measure along the lines of what we call a relative timeline, because that's all you need in order to get the information that's being brought to you. So you must do the research, and look up what relative time is as opposed to absolute time. And you will see that both of them are suitable, when it comes to bringing information to a people. So most of your little Gregorian calendar, they're going to try to put it in the realm of absolute time as if that's going to change the information that's brought forth. Key is, if one bring you information, then you can go back and you can do your research and see what timeline it fall in. We got to stop being, those who have a recipient mentality, when it comes to this information, because if you're dealing with a professor as opposed to somebody that's just teaching, a teacher gonna hold your hand all the way, to the bus out, but a professor is gonna put you in the state of mind to where you can go and do your own research. Anybody that know about, higher degrees of unfolding and learning, that. And you ain't got no problem doing your own research. You're not looking to try to spin a narrative, based upon a timeline that somebody is giving you, because none of the timeline that the European give is trustworthy. You see? But I don't discriminate if one choose to try to put it in a time. That's on them. I'm saying that you ain't going to box me into dealing with that, because we don't demonstrate like that, in my paradigm. And so we're going to show you what our calendar is. We're going to show you how we demonstrate and how we calculate our timeline. You see? So by the same token of me showing you why the Gregorian calendar is not something we use, in the same breath, I'm going to demonstrate, our particular timeline and how we calculate time. And it's not dealing with, the way the European demonstrated. It's demonstrated according to the methodology that the ancestors used prior to the European coming on the manifest. And I ain't got to go all the way down into that and get into the science of those calendars, although I would touch on them. I just want to do this and kind of be brief with it. I don't want to, I always say I don't want to be long and drawn out, but some of this information, it called for you to really go deep into the depths of it, because people have a million questions. And if you wonder why, my measures are so long when I build, because when I say something directly to the point, most of the time our people want to try to dig into one thing. So in my measure, I try to explain, everything in detail, to the extent that where a baby can comprehend it. And if one will hear me out, they can get the gist of what's being said, and you ain't got to jump to conclusion. You ain't gonna got to ask no questions, because I'm gonna answer your question 9 times out of 10 in what I put out here. That's my style of delivery when it comes to information. I exhaust mostly all points because I'm looking at it from all angles. I'm not just spewing information, just to be heard. I'm considering the questions that the audience may have in the process of giving the information. So if you give the one time to give you that information, then you can see whether or not you have to ask that question or not. But if you don't have the discipline to sit there and learn because you come with your own agenda, then it is what it is. You see what I'm saying? But nevertheless, I'm going to try to make this as brief as possible when I go into this special drawing. Very powerful measure that I had to bring on the manifest. It will be clear and concise with clarity. Any questions, I'm open for questions, that one we have, but I'm going to make my position clear from the onset. You see, that way you know exactly where I'm coming from. You see, so you don't have to ask me about my position, because I'm gonna tell you what my position is. So if anything, you can ask me about, any questions that you have in regards to dealing with the calendar and how that relates to what I'm demonstrating. All is well. But don't ask me about my position, because I'm finna give you my position right now. You see, and this is where I stand. And nothing that you say is going to change my position based upon what it is that I have studied. Not what somebody just told me, but what I have done in my own research. You see? So that's how we're going to do that. That way we ain't got to go back and forth on no argument. If you disagree, you have a right to disagree. I ain't against that. I ain't in opposition to you disagreeing with me. You got a right. You got your own mind. I'm not trying to force what I'm demonstrating upon you, and nor am I going to allow you to force what you demonstrate upon me. I hear you out though, you see, but you don't have to agree with me. I don't have to agree with you. We don't have to have emphasize our oppositional position, so to speak. So what I'm gonna do at this time right now, I'm gonna open up, and like I say, I'm always try to put a little PowerPoint together, to kind of guide our people through, where we coming from. So I'm gonna share my entire screen. Let me do this here. This is my little presentation that I'm gonna bring forth. Ain't a whole lot, just enough to hit home on the points that I'm demonstrating. So, okay. So what we have here, and we always coming forth from the Egyptian Adeptus research Sultanate. In the academical aspect, this is ears. If you got ears to hear and a heart to sympathize with the truth, then this is information for you. You see, and maybe it can increase you in what you already have, and you can take it and remix and do whatever you want to do with it. Take something from it if you don't take anything else. So here's a measure out here, and want to give honors to the creators of this particular chart. I didn't make it, but it fit right into getting to the point, because I ain't trying to go into dealing with these measures here too far. But we're going to show you just some straight to the point measures. Why did we switch from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar, right? 1582 Julian, 1582 Gregorian, right? And you see the style of the calendar. You see Pope Gregory is the one that had the Gregorian calendar, and Julius Caesar calendar, is the Julian calendar. Now one of them is for my people, if you ask me. You see? And so when we find people among our people that are using these calendars, and they don't even want to honor the calendars of our ancestors because these are considered more modern and more acceptable, then this shows you what the loyalty of those people are that are dealing with these timelines. That means they don't trust what our ancestors say. Well, commission bed to differ. I trust what my ancestors say. And most of this is just a remix or remix of it. And again, dealing with those who are atheistic or who like to stress what they call scientific literacy. If you are against religion and religiosity, how is it possible that you adopt a Gregorian or Julian calendar? Especially Gregorian, because even though Gregorian is another measure coming from, an extra biblical Roman period, you see, you're dealing with the Roman and Catholic Church, who created this special calendar, but yet you believe that your timeline that you are calculating today are based upon accuracy. So if you throw the Bible away because of it being incorrect or inaccurate according to you, then how can you use a timeline that's based off of biblical chronology? Make it make sense, you hypocrite, you. And anybody that don't know no better among our people that you are deceiving with this narrative, I pity you. I pity you for letting these people mislead you and make you believe, in illusion. I'm fighting against the Eurocentric mindset, be it a translation, the calendar systems and all that, but they want to tell you, because I'm going against that narrative, that this is pseudo. Even the term pseudo comes from a Christian, background as far as dealing with scholarship. It started with applying the term pseudepigrapher to books that they didn't accept. And guess what? Just so happened that those books that are mostly considered pseudepigrapher come from our ancestors, such as the Ethiopian books of Enoch. And, they were written by the Coptics, which were our ancestors. So most of the Coptic books are considered pseudepigrapher. And so they came up with a term pseudo. And then later on, it evolved into a scientific expression of it. And now they're using it in science. You see? And so anything that somebody don't agree with, again, they call it pseudo. And they have no idea exactly what pseudo is. But nevertheless, it don't mind, because I don't need a whole bunch of people listening to me. You see, I don't look for a crowd. If I got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people that's hearing what's being brought, I'm doing my job. Because it ain't never been about the quantity, people. It's always been about the quality. You see what I'm saying? Because most of the mass of those individuals ain't getting it anyway. Most of the masses of all the numbers of the people just using it as a pastime. They ain't serious about this scholarship. Why do you think that there's a limitation in writing with all the people that exist in the world throughout the climes and the times? You only have certain individuals that are writing on these things, because most people don't care to try to bring you the true information. They just want to be semi-knowledgeable, and whatever narrative sound the best. Like Napoleon said, history is, basically that which has become something that's just agreed upon by, the majority. That's what becomes the historical narrative. You see? So I don't need a majority to agree with me to know where I'm coming from, because I did the necessary research and I know what I'm talking about. I don't always get up here and try to show you everything I come off of my head. I can put it up here now and show you why. And that's what I'm doing now for those who want to know why Commission don't draw off the European Gregorian calendar. Oh, it's finna get real deep in a minute. So, you atheists, again, and you so-called teachers of scientific literacy that honor the Gregorian calendar when it comes to your timeline, and you feel like it got to be within that time, you're a hypocrite. And you're a deceiver of our people. Because if you don't honor anything Christian or anything religious, atheists, scientific literalists, then why are you honoring a calendar that's based off of religiosity? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Okay, let me keep it moving. We ain't gonna stay there that long. We done made our point. But we're gonna use the hammer of repetition. You see what I'm saying? Because we know who your daddy is. There they go right there. You love this. You eat this up. This is what you believe. Now, after I get done with this today, anybody that asks me about time or the Gregorian calendar or timeline, I will reference you back to this video. Because the times of me going back over the things I've said before already and keep doing that over and over again for the sake of doing it, that's done with me. And I can care less what you believe and what you accept, what you don't believe, what you disagree with. It don't matter to me. I know what I've studied. You see? So look at this. Gregorian calendar. 2 chief terms you will see mentioned in there. BC, before Christ, and Anno Domini. Right? So you see I'm saying here, well, no, it does not mean after death. The Latin meaning deals with the year of our Lord. This year is 2014 years since the Christians believe Jesus was born. So now if you're going off of the narrative of a Gregorian calendar, you atheists, you scientific literalists, then that means that you're going off a calendar that deals with a timeline that says BC and AD. What does BC mean? It means before Christ. So that means you saying that Jesus don't exist or Christ don't exist, but you going off a calendar that's based off the existence of a Christ. Make it make sense. You hypocrite. You viper. You deceiver. Make it make sense. And if the shoe fit, I can't help, you putting it on. But if you trying to squeeze your foot into this shoe, then that's on you if you feel offended by what I'm bringing. You see? So BC and AD, one of them deal with the year of our Lord and one deal with before Christ. That's what your Gregorian calendar and timeline is dealing with. So if you don't believe that a Christ can exist, or you don't believe a Jesus was born or exists, you atheist, you scientific literalist, if you don't believe this, then how can you accept the timeline of a Gregorian calendar to be right and exact? How can you accept it as absolute truth when it comes to the time period that you calculate? Oh, y'all think it's a game, huh? Oh, you gonna learn today. Let's go on. We can't get no plainer than that. These are the actual documents going back to 1752 when they began to adopt these timelines, in South Carolina and Virginia and so forth and so on. And you can see in here they was talking about the reader will observe that the day which follows the second of this month is placed on the 14th and is to be esteemed. The substance of the act of the parliament which enacts it, it says, inserted in the beginning of the almanac. And this is dealing with the time period they putting up in here. See the 30 days and all of that right there, right? So they done put this in their timeline. This day commences the year of our Lord, 1752, before the what that says, it look like I want to say consolation or consolation. It say of which we are. It say by the late act of the Parliament, Great Britain required to use of the new Gregorian stele instead of the old Julian, and we believe would not be thought improper at this time. They just adopted their own time and they say they believe that it won't be improper for them to do it. And then you got these people around here now eating it up, using it to calculate everything that it is they talk about. But yet and still scientific timeline debunks the Gregorian calendar. And vice versa, because we know that timeline in the science don't fit into the Gregorian calendar. Because their timeline started at 3100 BC. Truth be told, the same particular timeline they started to try to put out there in regards to dealing with a 6,000 year time period biblically. It is therefore herewith presented them with the compliments, it says, of Sephan, and our next we shall give, it's a basically Rome account of the changes of the year. It says, have hitherfore undergone the reason of them. So this is the year, that they come up with corresponding. They showing you exactly where it was. This is the excerpt from the front page of South Carolina Gazette, the 1st of January, 1752. So we showing you how they adopted. Remember, this is the year of our Lord. That's the language they're using now. You see? Remember, BC means before Christ, and AD means what? After the birth of the year of the Lord, right? AD. So if you're saying that you are scientific in your literacy, are you atheistic in your belief, then make it make sense. How you calculating your time, or how are you begging somebody to give you a chronology based upon that time? If Jesus don't exist, if he don't exist, then does it have meaning for this calendar to exist? To be calculating something from a time that don't exist? Or the birth of a person that don't exist? Make it make sense now. How can you even establish a timeline in that, people? Oh, we're going to make it plain today. Let me check my board and see if we got somebody in here observing this demonstration. Peace to the one brother and the six that ain't announced themselves. Honors to all of you. The real cleanup brother. Peace to you, brother. Oh, yeah, we're going to make it plain today. So, that's what you ask them. Next time they start trying to get you to accept the Gregorian calendar and they atheistic or they dealing with scientific literacy And they saying that they scientists asked them, how do their calendar, I'm talking about the one that go into the Meso period and the, Australopithecus, all that right there. When they go back to them time frames, how can they fit that in the Gregorian calendar cycle? Millions of years, trillions of years, billions of years. It don't fit. You see? Let's go here. So anyway, when you deal with chronology, because some people think chronology is limited to dealing with these timelines, but it tells you here the sequence of events over time. When you deal with chronology, I want our people to take notes on this. Absolute chronology refers to the exact time an event takes place. In the case of these people that are calling themselves atheistic and scientific literalists, they would tell you that this timeline is dealing with a time sequencing based upon a Gregorian calendar, or charts that deal with the Gregorian time period. But the Gregorian time period was recently created, 1582, 1782 adopted, by those who over in this area, 1752, pardon self. And so the relative chronology, on the other hand, this time deals with when events take place in relation to other events. It helps us to understand connection between different events. That's what I deal with, relative chronology. You see, that doesn't necessarily have to have time dates in there, because we know the Gregorian time dates are iffy. We ain't just going against it just for the fact because it came from a European, by the way. We're talking about the inconsistency of the time, and we finna show that to you in a second. I'm going to show that to you in a second, family. I just want to make you be able to see the difference between absolute time versus relative time, or absolute chronology versus relative chronology. This is absolute chronology, according to the European. In history, and just because they call it absolute, don't make it absolute. That don't mean I agree. You can agree, but I don't. An absolute chronology in history is a list or timeline of specific dates and events. For example, an absolute chronology will look something like this. 1987, Miss Jerez is born, putting events in a succession of events based upon these numbers up here, right? And we can go into the beginning of kindergarten, beginning of middle school, graduated college. All of this deals with putting these events in absolute order is helpful, and it shows clearly the relationship and succession of events. For absolute chronology, you must know the specific dates and eras of events. You see? But if the absolute chronology is based upon a calendar that is not dependable, then I'll let you do what you want to do with that. So now let us know what relative chronology is. It is placing events in the order they have happened relative to one another. You do not have to know necessarily specific dates, but you should be able to use associations to figure out how to place the eras in events in relative chronological order. You see? And that's basically knowing, for example, where we know birth is a process where one comes into being. We know to begin, would place a particular place in a time period, without putting a time period there, without putting numbers up there. Well, the beginning. Well, what is the middle school? We know what middle school is. What's relative to that? And we know what graduate is. So these are different sequencings of events without putting numbers in there, family. So when I give you history, and the history is put in a chronological order without putting numbers there, all you got to do is go do the research. And you can use that calendar history. And I have my own calendar that we use. You see? And I'm going to show you that in a minute. So I want to show you something about this Gregorian calendar history. Peace and love, brother. Let me show you something about this Gregorian calendar. I know Brother Commission make it hard, you know what I mean, and make people, have to go against you know, what it is that's modern day academia. I know most of our people scared to do that because they feel like they're going to be ridiculed and cussed out and called a fake scholar and everything else. But when you're a real man, if our sisters are real women, you know, we don't care about what everybody else thinks. We don't need nobody to agree with us. Just like them Europeans can do their own research, we can do the same thing, family. And when you put them on a pedestal as if they the only one to do it, then you making them your God, whether you know it or not. So look at here. I'm going to show you why I don't use the Gregorian calendar. Here's a Gregorian calendar showing a timeline dealing with Gregorian calculation. It shows you 3000 BCE, right? Old Kingdom 26 and 13, 21 and 81, right? 2500 BC, right? And then they come all the way up into here, right? Because they're going to all be in a certain time frame. Now, let's go to this calendar history. Here's one telling you this is the old early dynastic period. Now, we just heard that the old period was supposed to be something different than what you see in here now. Now you got pre-dynastic starting, you know, in the same area, but they don't know how to write these things, so they putting up there what they can. Here we go with another right here. This one adds 100 more years on to it, right? This is another Gregorian calendar history dealing with Kemet. You see what I'm saying? 3111 to 30 and 45. Wait a minute. I thought you said over here. Now, to you, it may make no difference that it's just 100 years off, but that goes to show you that there's an inaccuracy in the dating process. You see what I'm saying? We're going to go back over here to this one now. They telling you the old kingdom, 2600, 13 and 2181. Let's go back over here to this. Let's look at the old kingdom over here. 2000. That's like 500 years off from the original. One putting it in the early dynastic period, and the other one is putting it, you know, in a time that comes later. So that's a problem right there. It may not be a problem with you, but it's a problem with me. But it get better, because sometimes they'll say, okay, well, it's 3,500 years. And then they got up here the dynastic period. The old kingdom come up here in the same area. But look at this here, 3,500. The Gregorian calendar, you know, is barely cutting the line of 3,100. So now this is the pre-dynastic period. Now this is 3,500 right here on this calendar. They got 3,000 on this one here we showed you earlier. And then they got 3,000 on the other, right? Let's keep looking at some of them though. I don't know why it's blurring that out. But you can see it though. They're giving you 3,000 here again. Egyptian history in the timeline, right? And I didn't even mention, you know, that if we're dealing with 3,100 BC, then you turn around and go into the realm of, in this particular calendar that we put up here earlier. There we go. I know what I got to do, move it over. Okay, there we go. And if you look up here, say 5,500 BC. You know what I mean? So is it 3,500 BC or is it 5,500 BC? See what I'm saying? And they would basically place BC here, even though they're saying 3,500 years. Some of them will put 3,500 BC there. You know, so it can't be all of these different timelines, family. That's what I'm getting into. Somebody, look here. Here it go right here. Here go a nut. Here go a nut right here, family. Look at this. 5,000 BC. Pre-dynastic period. Early dynastic period now. Here, your old kingdom coming in here and they still off there. Goodness gracious. Now this is before Christ. Remember, this calendar history is based on the time before Christ. That means you atheists, you scientific literalists, you got to believe in Jesus to believe in the timeline. You got to believe Jesus was born by default. You see? Come on now. And I can go on and on and on and on with it. I can show you some of them say 600 BC. You know, I can go into many different areas, family. You know, I mean, since 6,000 BC, pardon self. You know, either they dealing with 100 years off, 1,000 years off over here, a few years off over there. But everybody can't be telling the truth. See, this is what I was exposing to you a few minutes ago. I ain't trying to go into this whole page here. I want you to see the calendar. See how they saying this right here? 3,100 BC. So how it's going to be 3,100 BC and 5,500? That's what, like almost 3,000 years off? You know, from 55 and even more, actually, like 2,500 years off from the other calendar. So don't ask me about no Gregorian calendar and why I don't honor it. I'm showing you why I don't honor it. Look, here we go one right here. Look at this. Look what this one say. Look what this calendar say right here. I want y'all to make this video go viral so we can expose these hypocrites, deceivers. Here it is, pre-dynastic period, right? Look at that. They got a timeline right here in 4,000 range. So we done seen a date of 4,000, 5,500. We done seen 5,000. We done seen 31. We done seen 3,000 BC. All of these can't be the same thing. Y'all want to accuse me and trying to mesh everything up into a timeline, one timeline, when the very timeline you using is off by a long shot? I can't believe this. So what we gonna do, we're gonna give you some correction and some clear conception. We already know who your daddy is. But we're going to go here and let you know who originally taught the timeline. See, this is where I tell you all the time that the timeline was changed by Indologists. These were Europeans, and there they go, these individuals right here who went into India, studying India. They didn't agree with the timeline that was kept by the Indus-Kushite Valley civilization. They have some of the most modern and comprehensive times dealing with more ancient timelines. And it tell you, it say the very small time period that the ruins are attributed never seemed right to the Hindus, who assumed the Indologists were allowing a Western bias to shape their theories, which of course is correct, whether the theories are correct or not. It says, as the chronology they worked out was dependent on the timeline of Mesopotamia. It says who the Harappians were trading with. For those who don't know who the Harappians is, this is actually the Proto-Indians, so to speak. You know, their stuff actually ties in with the people of Mesopotamia. That's why there's a lot of similarity between the Mesopotamian culture and the Harappian culture, because they all are descendants of the Kushites. Mesopotamia has Kushite blood in them, and the Harappians have Kushite blood in them. They were the Indus-Kushite Valley civilization. So it's not strange that their calendar system would be the same. So the European went solely off of what they have tried to move from the Mesopotamian aspects without having a full knowledge of it. And then they remixed it, or did I say remix it? This has resulted in many Indians and Pakistanis wanting scientific dating, as opposed to the hearsay approach that the early Indologists were forced to use. It says in the Indologists, right, in 1920 through the 1950s, that worked out the timeline of the Indus Valley civilization, were dependent on the Assyriologists that were being primarily funded by the breasted, and therefore worked out a timeline for the entire civilization that spanned 3,300 to 1,300 BC. So now you see where your Gregorian calendar concept come from. This timeline placed the birth of the Indus Valley civilization in the same year that Brett's own theories placed the birth of Egypt in 3,300 BC. This civilization was immediately assumed by many Hindus to be the ruins of the ancient civilization of the epics. However, that would mean they should span a time span of over 2 million years until at least 3100 BC, the time of Krishna. So they basically give you the real time span and how 3100 would actually be the time of Krishna according to their own calendar. So this is the father of Indology, William Jones, who founded the Asiatic Society in Bengal in 1784. We're giving that to you for your own information. That's what they say. We don't care nothing about that. We're just telling you what they put it up there to in their particular calendar. So this is what you have to know before you start talking about time. Now let us get deep into this right here. We're going to get deep into this time in a minute right here. I'm going to read this first. And I want to give y'all too many errors in the calendar. Ain't that right? And it's more than that, Brother Noble Brian, but I didn't even put it all up there. I want our people to, because I love to look at our scholarship, even though people don't like to listen to them, because they make perfect sense in this particular book right here I'm getting ready to read from. It's called The Supreme Understanding. And some of you may already have this, right? It's this book right here, The Supreme Understanding. And I'm finna come from page 189 in it. And I'm going to go up to page 192. And I want you to listen carefully, because this is the position that we honor. We honor what our scholars bring on the manifest, what our brothers produce. You know, they are just as more relevant than what these Europeans talking about. I don't care what nobody else say outside of that. So they say here, and they were speaking of the supreme clock of time in the universal flag. It says the cipher represents the 25,000 year cycle of God. 25,000 equals cycle. That's what equals the cycle of 7. So that means that when you drop all the zeros, because they really placeholders anyway, 2 and 5 is 7. It says, or the 2 plus 5 equals 7 God, and the 3 ciphers or understanding ciphers equal 1080. So that's 3 times 360 degrees. It says, or 9 born, because no matter how many times you deal with the multiplicity, however you come, 9 is the root. And we call 9 in our particular teaching re-entry. You know, 9 represent the 9-month process, you know, that it takes, you know, in order for a seed to be born, you know, unless they become stillborn, or, you know, we have some premature labor taking places. In most cases, the natural phases deal with 9 months. So re-entry. So these cycles of re-entry to us represent the return of our ancestors, return of the ancient ones, milestones in the journey of the race. You see, that's what we talking about. We ain't dealing with a mere second. You know, we ain't dealing with a mere minute, a mere hour. You see, we're not dealing with a mere day. We're not dealing with a mere week, a mere month, a mere a year, and so forth and so on. We understand where you're coming from in regards to dealing with that, but our cycles in time deal with the event. What was the most important event to take place in a particular time period? Most of those things happen during an upheaval of what we call a paradigm shift. So that's what we measure times by: paradigm shifts, cycle ages, changes. And cycle ages more likely supersede the Gregorian calendar, because the Gregorian calendar doesn't have enough time to even be a completion of one cycle. Even our brother Ashwar Quasi will tell you that. You see? Like I said, so make it make sense now. So going into this special drawing, to go deeper, you know, with this, we're going to read the rest of what's being said here. And we want our family to most definitely, we want them to basically be able to have this demonstration in mind. So it says here, it says, which means the supreme God is born every 25,000 years. it says, though minor gods may show up, there's always one every 25,000 years who is the final and the wisest amongst that group. He is the judge. Now, this teaching comes from Kemet. Kemet taught on the cycles just like this. At a particular time, during these unfoldments of cycles, there's the return of the deity. It don't just have to be 25,000 years, because there are major cycles and minor cycles. In our paradigm, we teach these minor cycles, of reformation. I'm going to show it to you in our calendar. They start as low as so much as 700-year periods, which actually deal with the rise and fall of empires. If you notice, the Moorish Empire lasted 700 years. So go back 700 years before that. You see, and then go back before that. That's a 2100-year cycle if you multiply that time 3 to us in our calendar. You see, according to our mathematics of living. So it says the circumference of the planet is also 25,000 square miles, making our history one with our home. Now, in the NOI, they bring this calculation, from 24,896,000 square miles. I got to say it quick because I'm pulling it out of my ethers, because it's been a long time since I demonstrated that science. So though I never been a member of the NOI, I know they lessons very well. I know, the theology of time very well. From Elijah saying 7-8 trillion years was the beginning of history. 76 trillion years was the beginning of time. And then you have 72 trillion years, the beginning of the stars being put into the national. 66 trillion years is when the moon was cast off from the earth, in 6 trillion year cycles. I'm familiar with all that, family. You see, so we getting into the science of this time. And people will say, how in the world are they calculating this sign? How they doing it? Because it all has to do with, in most cases, time calculation that ain't got nothing to do with the Gregorian calendar. Because it ain't going to make no sense. But if you go into the Indus Kushite Valley calendar, you're going to see that it goes back way further than just 78 trillion years. We're going to get into that in a minute. So it says 7 represents, it says in this particular book, they say 7 represents the black man operating off of his 7 planes of energy and existence and at its fullest potential. It says the G represents God, the 7th letter of the alphabet. The G is trapped in the upper side of the pyramid, meaning that this would be trapped for over 6,000 years. And it says the pyramid encompassing the square created by the original man, stolen by the devil, used as a form of trick knowledge against the black man, dead people, right? Used in masonry and in the U.S. legal tender. The G trapped in the compass shows how the devil has hidden the secrets that we are God. The base shows that the earth's dead level, from hence we came, the dead level from 9,000 years to their born year of 15,000 in the years of equality, because they built their own calendar based off of this history. It says the crescent only because devilishment has transformed the thinking of our women. She has not become her true self. The crescent represents the woman's womb. In fertile stage, it shows that our woman, that is called a black woman by those who have no knowledge, can either use her womb as darkness, like the devil wants, prostitution, manipulation, greed, lust, hatred, toward a man, or work with him by reflecting his light, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. That's why in our seal, our grand national seal, you will see the crescent and you see the star in the crescent. We say salvation because this is the birth. The principles come through the womb of our God woman, right? So we have some similarities in these teachings. It ain't strange because we know a lot of the teachings of the NOI 5% and all that right there. We'll say a branch off or offshoot of what has been taught, in our own doctrine, in our own teaching. That's not an issue right there. We ain't here to try to pit the doctrines against nobody, but they have another chapter here, say the lock clock. It says, if I die, I don't want you standing over me crying, because if I could reach up to you, I'll slap you. This is class 13X, Father Allah. as they call them in the 5% nation. So they go into this demonstration on the lock clock, which is what most of our people been toiling and suffering under. It says, please, Allah, explain the clock. It says the vast majority of the persons on this planet rest on a clock traveling at a speed of 1,000.37 miles per hour. Yet the minority of the persons whom have the supreme understanding of gods do not acknowledge this fact due to the fact that the gods do not exist within the realms of the clock and the hands of evilness. Allah is the control of the clock, meaning to say that to the 85%, that the mind is the control of the clock. The clock has two worlds within itself. These two ciphers control the meaning of life. There's a world within a world, and the 10% has one world and the 85 have the other. The shorthand represents the 10%, moving slowly at an hourly rate, calculating its moves slowly with technology. The 85% represent the long hand, which moves at a faster pace, which is how the 10% bombard the masses with work, lust, sport, and play. The 85% never have a chance to think and obtain enlightenment to rise above 6, and thus they get caught up in the web of decay. The 10% uses them as a tool and slave until their physical death based upon this clock, right? When you're getting caught up into the minute, the second, the hour, you know, they got you in traffic talking about you're dealing with rush hour. They got you dealing with time, talking about you better be on time when they get here, call it CP time, colored people time. You see what I'm saying? All this is dealing with the illusion because we know past, present, and future, you know, is all Maya and illusion because in all actuality, once the past has manifested, it had to come from something that was present. But when present is gone, then that's becoming the past too. So this is an ongoing cycle of Maya and illusion. You see? Ain't no past, present, and future in all actuality. In fact, most people that have had near-death experiences would tell you that the time changes its symmetry when they be in that state of consciousness where they're not dealing with this time. Time don't even matter. But that's a whole nother message. But people controlling you with time. They got you doing time. People wasting your time. People say time is money and all of that right there. All of that's dealing with this physical manifest. And our calendar is not limited to those things. It says, and why is it so? 85% find it hard to get out of the mental and physical chains that surround them. Even though the key to the lock of the clock, is staring them in the face. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said he brought the keys of civilization back to the Moors. In ancient Kemet, we talk about the key of life. So the keys of civilization should be something that will bring about a higher quality of life, right? Let me keep going. It said, because they are dumb, deaf, and blind. Sunum unum bunum, as the Grand Quran would say. It sometimes takes them time to find the truth, which is the key, that is Islam, ourself, law, and master. It says you and only you can release yourself from the bondage of being a mental hostage to the devil's civilization. So you got to have the key to your own civilization, you see, to get yourself up out of somebody else's plantation. So it says, so only self can save self. That's what we teach in the Moorish Holy Quran. Self and savior has to do with the savior and the self, you know, of one's own consciousness. It says, yes, you are your own self-lord and master. God is the chain of life. The golden chain in North America began with the spark of Master Farad Muhammad, according to their teaching, right? That's their calendar. That's where they begin their calendar history from. Ours there came with Noble Drew Ali in all actuality. So it says the clock only goes up to the knowledge, wisdom 12, which doubled in 24 hours, equals equality. 2 + 4 = 6. And that is the devil's highest elevation. Therefore, God cannot exist within the clock because he is the all and is the infinite, and the lock is the destroyer. It says, what is the destroyer? The lock, better known as the clock of Satan. What can a civilized person learn from the clock? They can learn all about the devils and see when the 85% learn about the devil, they will run him from amongst themselves. Just what I'm doing right now. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said he was going to stop the European from thinking and get the Moors to thinking for themselves. That's stopping that thought pattern, that Eurocentric thought pattern that our people have in them. We stopping that. When you hear me going against the way that they have covered up the language, we stopping that European thought pattern in our people. When you hear me going against this Gregorian calendar that they done come up with, that ain't got nothing to do with what our ancestors did, I'm stopping that thought pattern. Now, if you want to stay in that, if you love that, because you believe that's scientific literacy, according to your atheism, then stay over there. I ain't going. So, anyway, let me get back. It says, in the time, it says, shows that all those who partake in this devilishment will surely burn in the fire of hell, their lower self. Not a place that got to do with no flames, your own passions and your desires. People going to always be able to control you by that shorthand of time. Right? So last but not least, it says the devil pays 85% by the hour. It says, does this have anything to do with the clock? Yes. Some people getting ready to go to work right now under that same clock. It says, and you better get that job done by a certain time period too. It says, oh, you gonna have some problems, right? That's what they do to you, right? So it says, yes, the two hands as said above represent 10% and 85%. The long hand represents the 85% because they are foolish and give the devil what he wants. Even though he is a small hand, 10%, he makes fools out of the 85% and keep where it say out of them, keeping them, the small and minute hand represents the 85% in danger every minute of our rotation, which is 1,440 minutes, which equals born. It says on our rotating speed, which is 1,037 1/3 point mile per hour. 1/3 mile per hour. It says which equals wisdom approximately 24 hours a day, which is equality. And every minute the 85% rotates around the devil, keeping them in danger. And every time they make one revolution, 60 minutes around the 10% pay them in his currency with his devilish seals attached. So that's what you get yourself into when you get caught up into the way the European calculate time based upon their Gregorian calendar, dealing with the every minute, second, and hour, that they exercise their power over you when they devour you, and your bread being eaten by another. You see, I'm well around it when it comes to this information, because my duty is to bring all of our people together and bridge the gap. So when you look at the subject title of this video, why we measure time by cycle ages and not the Gregorian timeline, it should be clear right now. I really shouldn't have to say anymore, but to put the icing on the angel food cake that I'm serving right now, we're going to go a little deeper just to give our people a little bit more knowledge. So you just seen us talking about the endologists, right? You seen us talking about the endologists. I'm going to show you something right here. And we told you about the calendar of the people of India, the Hinduist Kushite, prior to the endologists coming in and changing everything. It tells you here, it says Hinduism is the only religion in this modern time, basically, from the old world that recognizes how ancient the universe really is. It ain't like the Bible that tell you that the world is 6,000 years old. It says they describe a universe in flux, constantly shifting to the ebb and flow of life, death, and rebirth. The ancient system depicts 4 major cycles that govern our cosmos. What they call the Divya Yuga, which is 4.3 million year cycle. The Manvantara, it states, which is equal in 306 million years. And that's actually Manvantara cycle. And then you have the Kalpa, which is 4.3 billion years in a cycle, the Kalpa. Then you have the Brahma cycle, which is 311 trillion years. The life dealing with the creation of God, right? So this is creation coming into being 311 trillion years. That's why I told you this supersedes the 7 to 8 trillion years mentioned by the NOI. But we know the influence of Master Farad Muhammad because he has some Indic roots in his birth. I want to give honors to Paul Guthrie, one who actually gave me honors a long time ago when he seen me teaching a lot of this stuff. You see what I'm saying? Because he was already teaching, certain connections with that. But I ain't going to get into that because this ain't about going into the birth of Farad Muhammad. This is dealing with, the time cycle. So what you find out is when you look at these original calendar cycles that were kept by the Hinduish people, according to the Brahmic cycles, you see how well they fit in the historical narrative. Because with the Gregorian calendar, you can't go nowhere beyond 3100 BC. You can't talk about trillion year cycles because the Gregorian calendar hasn't seen a trillion year cycle. You see? It would be pseudo to try to calculate it into that, even though so many do. You see, scientific timeline ain't got nothing to do with no Gregorian calendar. You got to be able to fit that into a calendar system that already existed. And it is this calendar system that already existed. And Kemet also kept time frames that go back this far. We're going to get into that in a second. Remember, they coming from the Kushites. The Kushites were the first establishers of the Nile Valley civilization. That's why you'll see a lot of the symbolism in Hinduist Kushite civilization among the people of India that you will find in the temple of Amun-Ra. You see? But anyway, so they would show you here, the Big Bang. According to that, they will put in the line the first atoms form. We call it protoplasm in chapter 1 of our Moorish Holy Quran. The first life form. In Kemet, this would be Autum. They call it Atma, ATMA, Atma. This represents that stage of consciousness. But to us, it is Autum, ATUM. Then they change it into Adam Kadman. When you get into the lofty teachings of not only Islam, Sufism, but even Judaism, all of them recognize Adam Kadman. The word Kadman is synonymous with Kadam, being first or original. When they say who is the original man, and they talk about the evolution of man coming out of Atom, that's where the NOI got this from. You see? But that Adam Kadman represents the pre-Adamite that came before Adam Harishun, the physical Adam that they talk about in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. See, Adam Kadman came in the first day of creation, when the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, when they talk about the churning of the universe. You see, Elijah said the rotation of the atom. All of this coming straight out of Kemet, coming from the Kushites, family. But anyway, so we have galaxies that come into existence. Galaxies evolve. See, they teaching all this right here. The planets begin to form, life forms develop. So when you look at scientific time and archaeological time, and they be talking about millions and billions a year, you can fit that in a calendar history that's dealing with this, but you can't make that make sense with no Gregorian calendar. Because then the scientists all of a sudden don't want to deal with the Gregorian calendar. They want to have a problem with the Gregorian calendar when they say, well, we dealing with this particular time period. 350 million and all this dealing with your different life forms and so forth and so on. And then they want to criticize it, but then they want to use it when it's convenient to them. Make it make sense. Come on, man. See, I see through that. You can't fool Commission with that. I know better. I just hate that my people are so gullible and they believe anything, because you eloquent in your ignorance. And you have learned, I give you a salute. You atheistic scientific literalists, I give you credit that you have become very proficient in articulating your lie. You have well organized your life to convince the ignorant, but you can't convince me though. I see through it. The ignorant can't see what you're doing. The ignorant think I'm giving them a mistruth right now. But those who know exactly what I'm talking about, that have the ears to hear and a heart to sympathize with the truth and able to say, man, these people trying to get over us and mislead us into believing what the Europeans saying. They know what I'm saying is the truth. And they're going to get it in due time. They gonna get it in due time, because the same way y'all coming against me is the way the European came against the elder Sheikh Anta Diop and all our other scholars that they like to call pseudo. But yet and still, y'all act like y'all honor them, but y'all want to make everything fall in the Europeans' scientific literacy. Man, y'all get out of here. I know you're agents and agents provocateurs. I ain't going. So anyway, in these cycles, you know, and they have many different aspects showing you, you know, the different expressions of the calendar, you know, from the very time of the cosmic cycles. I'm trying to do this without it keep flipping. You know, as you can see, cosmic time, Kappa time, you know, then they go into the geological periods of time. You know, each one of these different phases represent different portions of creation coming into being. See, they had a partial creation, partial extinction, you know, the Pliocene era, you know, the Pleistocene era, you know, dealing with geological periods. And then they come up here into the Yuga ages, which deal with, you know, some of those cycles that we were talking about. And so when we get into the calendar that we demonstrate, if you look at it from that standpoint, you can deal with the time and see the time is existing around this time period here. You see what I'm saying? From 225 million years ago to 150 to 65 million, you can fit that in these original calendars that were kept in the time of Brahma cycles. It makes sense, but you can't fit this type of time frame in no Gregorian calendar, because Gregorian calendar ain't seen no 225 million year cycle of time or years in time. They ain't seen it, family. So you say, well, if that's the case, then what time you dealing with, Commission? I'm finna show you right now. We deal with the Damari calendar, or the Damari Yuga calendar cycle of luminaries. This is our calendar that is based off of a lot of the calendar history dealing with some of the same stuff I showed you. You see, so it starts off with 311 trillion year. In ancient Kemet, this would actually be referred to Zep Tepi. You know, it would go back to before, you know, even the Big Bang, so to speak, before time ever was, in the Adi Yuga cycle age. So now, how do I deal with my calculation based on the Damari Yuga cycle age that deals with luminaries? The luminaries represent the sun, moon, stars. You know, this is what we calculating from, right? We can calculate a different time based upon whether it's coming from solar time, lunar time, or stellar time. That's a whole nother measure. I want to just show you the basics of this. So where did I get this from? In the Bible, they'll tell you that a day with God is like 1,000 years. In the Quran, it also says that a day with Allah is like 1,000 earth years as well, right? So if I were to take those, you know, 1,000 earth years, looking at it as a day of Allah, and I multiplied that by 7, that would be 7,000 years, according to this time frame. Now, there's another measure that deals with what we call a day of spiritual ascension. This equals 50,000 earth years. Now, that's 25,000 year cycles in all actuality. Honorable Elijah Muhammad will tell you that the 50,000 year represent when the new God come on the manifest, just like they were just speaking of in the clock that we were speaking of there. But then the 50,000 year represents a universal and complete change, a complete paradigm upheaval. Prophet Noble Drew Ali told the Moors that in the 102 that our flag was 50,000 years old. So was he dealing with Gregorian time when he said that? Or was he dealing with a time that was more ancient? Make it make sense. He was dealing with a time that had to do with cycle ages. So it was the event. And the event didn't even have to do with a physical banner, but it was actually man himself. That was the living manifestation of what we would call a banner. And we see that in ancient Kemet. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to show you. We're going to show you without. I'm going to just do it like this here. Man himself represented the flag, because man himself was one with God. Kemetically, You see, this is a symbol that represents the flag. People who've been telling you this represent an axe are wrong. You see, you have the flag, and then you have the symbol of the axe. I want to get a clear one. We only got 3 of them here. You know, we can show it to you. I want you to see Netter planting it. I actually have it in my own demonstration. You know what? I ain't even got to go. I really don't have to go here, but I'm gonna do this for the sake of doing it. Let's see if they give us the other ones. Nope, they ain't giving it to us here. And you know, they actually call this the Ayat method too, by the way. You know, Ayat, which is A-A-T, right? I may have to even put the detail in there. Let's see. Let's see if we give us this here. They got a couple of them up here, but they still showing the same thing. So what I do it this way, because I know this will take me exactly where I'm trying to go. I'm gonna go to my archives. I always have to go there and get y'all in here so you can see this demonstration. Like I told you, I don't know what they got going on up there, but let me see here. I'm gonna get some of y'all off my page too with Moorish American name with that foolery up there, disrespecting yourself. So here we go, right here. All right. So we got to know this stuff, family. Once we know it, can't nobody take it from us. Can't nobody take it from us. All right. Come on. And I did so much research, family, on these dealing with the history of the flags. You know, it's just crazy. You know, and this is actually a normal. I put these the glyphs inside of here because that's actually the way it is normally when you see Netter, but it's normally just the Netter sitting there with the flag there. And that's the symbol of the flag in the Netter. You know, so I have many different aspects of it. I can do it this way too. If you go and look at the measures that I demonstrated on the flags, you know, you would always see it. You can see it even here too. You know, Netter, a symbol of God. You know, that ain't got nothing to do with no alphabets. That's a symbol that represents God in ancient Kemet. Let me see here. Okay. It's another one that I have here. And I can always do it the other way too, but I really want y'all to see this so you can get the grand drawing. Because our flag has everything to do with this cycle, the flag that we have currently in the Moorish American government. So it's necessary that I give this to you. You know, and it all going back to the same symbol that we have, you know, being added therein. Okay. This is a whole lot of work right here. I can teach for centuries with this information right here just coming up out of my Facebook page. And that ain't to count all the information that I have in this hard drive right here. It get greater. This is how long I've been giving it up to our family. That's all I do with this information. So we'll just go here. But this is actually, if you go into the Kemetic teachings, this is the Kafesh that deal with the constellation of Masqueti, the great bull. You know, this is a symbol of Venus, the North Star, and this is the Big Dipper that goes around it. You see the Netter sitting here, but this is how it came. I didn't put that together like that's exactly the way the glyph look that represents the Kafesh, which is the scimitar. So these cycles, as we are talking about, even in my breakdown here, when I went through the mathematics and the multiplicity, it came back to 50,000 years. And we talk about when our flag it turned from white to red, so to speak. So that's the 50,000 year cycle. Comedically, this represents the reunification phase of the Ennead, because it's 3 Enneads. Ennead deal with the 9 different phases of the deity according to the creation cosmology. So it says the 3rd Ennead represents the return to the source, combining both Re and Ra, and Usir and Alsar. This is governed by the Grand Hierophant. So when Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought, this flag into being that we have, you see, from the plane of soul, because he's still working from the plane of soul. Our ancestors don't die. We star people. So once he did this, that's why we adopted that particular symbol, scimitar and star. That's where it come from, straight up out of Kemet. All over there. All you got to do is go do the research. For those who don't know no better, if you do this right here, just for good measure, so you know what we talking about. I'm going to give you the area so you don't say, this is what the Kafesh became. This is the actual origin of the scimitar. Scimitar derived from the family of the axe. You see? All that come from Egypt, family. And watch this. You see? See the constellation of the bull? You see that? And then they talk about also you deal with the symbol of this. This is sacred geometry. You see? And you also have this. I'll just put this here. We'll do this here. And this is what's going on right here, family. So this is basically the star in the Moorish flag, and this is the scimitar that's rotating around it. These are cycles that deal with that. See, when you deal with the Big Dipper, it's actually dealing with the motion of the swastika. It's 7 stars that make up, this is special demonstration. So a lot of this, as a matter of fact, our ancestors used the North Star, the Polaris, the brightest star in heaven, to navigate by. So when the Moors were navigating, that's what they were using, family. So let me go back over here. So when we talk about the Mara Yuga cycles and we talk about 50,000 Earth years, we get deep into this. We say, 7 days of Allah equals 1 week. I just mentioned that, which is 7,000 years according to our calendar. When you multiply that by 52 weeks, a whole year, right, you get 364,000 Earth years according to our calendar, right? Now, once you getting up into this type of time here, you go to understanding how we was using the similar methodology that they were using here in the calendar of India. We just have our own way of calculating according to the time that's given in the Grand Quran. So this is our time and our calendar according to this Yuga cycle. So then we have 7 days of angelic ascension multiplied by the 50,000. First one was dealt with by this one. When we multiply 50,000, because 50,000 Earth years, represents 1 day of spiritual ascension according to the Quran. That means that it would take 50,000 years in the way that we deal with time, in order for an angel or spirit to ascend to Allah in our ability to comprehend it. But to Allah himself is just the snapping of a finger. Light speed. Out of there. That quick. But when we dealing with this sluggish realm of calculating time, to us, that's like 50,000 years. That's a 50,000 year journey. You see? So when we multiply that 1 day of spiritual ascension time 364 earth days, we get 18,200,000 earth years. Right? We say 7 days of spiritual ascension. This is 1 week equals 350,000 years times 52 weeks, and it comes back to the same time. You see? And so in these different aspects of our calendar, there are certain times that we call paradigm shifts that take place in civilization. According to the Islamic history, they tell you 17,000 years is the cycle. And this is coming from the dictionary of Islam. They are called Adamic cycles of evolution. You know, dealing with man's development and how far he comes in that time period along the way, how much he evolves. You see, in the attribute Rab is mentioned under that. Rab means one who evolves, who has basically created man to evolve. He has unlimited capacity for unfoldment. That's why we say as man unfolds, as God unfolds. Europeans like to call it evolution without God. You see, but we call it divine revolution or divine evolution. So anyway, so you have your 100-year cycle of great reformers, meaning every 100 years, there's somebody great that come from amongst a particular people or nation. It's been over 100 years since Prophet Noble Drew Ali has passed form and been off this planet, so to speak, you know, from his birth up until now. You know, after that 100 years come our Grand National Chairman. He is the great reformer to us. You don't have to accept it, but he was the one that came forth bringing what Noble Drew Ali intended to bring forth. So he was that one that came to us in this 100-year cycle of reforming. This is the way we see it. The number one defender, Grand National Chairman of Moorish America. So the 7-year cycle of nations, like I told you, the Moors ruled Spain for 700 years, according to the teaching, right? So 700-year cycle of nation, you know, deals with the rise and the fall of nations. You see, and so you can look at how long we have been here in the Americas and think about how long they got to last. Some of us physically may not be here, but if we don't get it right this time, we got to reincarnate anyway. We might be here 200 years from now and see a whole different thing brought on the manifest. We may have to do the work of aid and assisting that coming in because we didn't act right this time. So 700 years times 3 is 2100 years in the cycle age of what we call preparation. Now, we normally consider these to be like 2100-year cycles within our different calendar, you know, by a 12-month system. That 2100 times 12 is 25,200. And we round that off to 25,000 years in the cycle age. You see? But when we add, you know, those things together, we get to 50,000, which we mentioned. And we also mentioned what we call, because we have a cycle age of fulfillment, which Noble Drew Ali has brought forth that fulfillment in this time. He came during the time that they like to call the age of Aquarius. We call it the age of benevolence, because that's benevolence is one of the rungs on our 12-step ladder in the Moorish calendar. You got to know the 12-step ladder in the Moorish calendar, the way we demonstrate in order to understand that. You see, I'm just giving you a briefing just to show you our calendar system. We'll go deeper into it at another time. 100,000-year cycle age of circumnavigation is what we teach that over 100,000 years ago, our ancestors circumnavigated the planet. Now we know, according to science, man came here, you know, as far as the most modern man, they call him, you know, the Jaber Uhud, 350,000 years old. So 100,000 years ago ain't nothing compared to all the time frame they give as the so-called beginning of the Homo sapien. Sometimes they go into the billion year, but Jaber Uhud just so happened to be, you know, the real modern human being that everybody done accepted scientifically. I'm gonna show you this right here so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because if I don't, then you'll be saying, you know, Brother Commissioner made something up again. You see? So this is what the scientists themselves have calculated. This is the Jebel Uhud, you know, and it goes all the way back again to, like I say, some would tell you, like in this one here, they saying 300,000, but then they'll say 350,000. But nevertheless, 100,000 existed in that time period. If this is where you first, right over here in Mauritania, I'm going to show you what they originally called this one too. You know, before that one was known, now it's Jebel Uhud. This is Morocco, modern day Morocco. This is also what a Richat structure is, what they say Atlantis was said to be. This is 300,000 years ago. They say the first, you know, earliest human being coming from here. So everybody else that's younger than that, you shouldn't have no problem believing that they circumnavigated, because they was here to circumnavigate it, right? But that makes sense when you're dealing with the calendars that I'm putting up here now. But you can't put that time frame in no Gregorian calendar. You can't do it. You just can't do it, people. I don't care how much you try. So to you atheistic, scientific literalists that's been using that Gregorian calendar, knowing that it says BC, before Christ, AD, after the year of our Lord, shame on you. Because you know good and well that calendar don't go nowhere beyond 3100 to 3300 BC. You know that. And if you don't believe that a man called Jesus exists, you know, a Messiah, whatever you want to call it, then that means the calendar doesn't have a basis. So make it make sense. So don't try to get me to calculate nothing according to no Gregorian calendar, because it ain't going to happen, family. It's not going to happen. I calculate according to the Mara Yuga cycles. And so what I will do is I go to a little 2100 year cycle age of preparation, and I will subtract the time, you know, if it's anywhere under 2100 years from, you know, whatever Gregorian, if it's 900 years ago, I subtract that time from my calendar. And then I come up with my calendar time period. You see what I'm saying? It makes sense now, don't it? So in all actuality, if I was going to calculate 3100 BC or 3300 BC from my calendar, I go to the closest. I would probably put 2 cycles there. So that would be 4200. And I would calculate from that 4200 years, 2 cycles. And then we come up with whatever time frame is left, and we give it the Mara Yuga year. You see, so our calendar is adaptable to any calendar that you can find out. We would just calculate it accordingly, and then it will become the Mara Yuga cycle. You see? So when I get to dealing with scientific calculations and, you know, stuff that's dealing with archaeology and, you know, anthropology and, you know, them dealing with all this type of dating they do with carbon dating and, you know, all types of stuff they do, you know, I would go into the highest number, you know, that is the closest to that time, then subtract it from our calendar, and that's how we get our dates in our calendar. I don't need the Gregorian calendar. Case closed. Okay, so for those who think that these times are inflated, you'll see right here that in Kemet, you know, they use the word he for long, indefinite periods of time, eternity, eternal. You get there, you ain't even dealing with no calculation. That go back to Zep Tepi and all that. Endless, limited eternity. The city of eternity. They even use that word. Look what they say here. He, the God of hundreds of thousands of years. So if they were talking about that, you know they had calendar systems that kept that type of time. I want to give honors to our brother, you know, Kabe Kamini, for bringing forth the history dealing with the Shabaka stone and the time, because he get in this. He get into Zep Tepi and all of the same stuff I'm talking about. You know, but our ancestors most definitely went beyond anything the Gregorian calendar can think about. Look at this here. A great but indefinite number, 1 million years even in Ptolemaic time. We know Ptolemy ain't seen no dang on. So we know some Ptolemaic innovations have been brought here. But it says 100,000 of millions of years. You know how long ago that was? 10 millions of years. You multiply and see what 10 millions of millions is. 10 million, 100,000 millions of years. All this, in order for this to be calculated, it had to be some calendar attached to this, family. A life of millions of years. So, I will close on this particular aspect right here. But I don't want you coming to me no more asking me about why I don't calculate nothing according to no Gregorian timeline. Because our ancestors in their calculation, their timeline was way more ancient. So we measure time by cycle ages and not by the Gregorian timeline. It makes sense now, don't it? So if you had questions and you wasn't able to go off into this special aspect and get it, now you got it. And I want to show you this as well as we go out. This is from my Grand National Chairman, the Book of Ali. It says the end of time means the conclusion of limited thinking, restricted understandings, predetermined existence, and bounded wills. Time is finite duration. You don't need it, family. Time is an illusion and nothing more. Time, be it past, present, or past, has beginnings or endings. The past equals history that cannot be changed, relived, or returned. The present does not exist. Thoughts used in present times are now history. The future equals that which has not happened yet. Time is subject to change as conditions and ethers change. All finite things are not made of permanent substances. Time appears in states of illusions, eras, ages, epochs, periods, generations, phases, hours, schedules, occasions. Man has no use for time except during his fall from infinite perfection as God. In his human state, man has been a slave to time. He has marked time, counted time, wasted time, and even served time. Yet rarely does finite mind of humans comprehend this finite duration, or how he himself has made the illusion of time to become his master. This is what Prophet Noble Drew Ali meant when he instructed the Moors to attend your meetings promptly. In order to be on time, you must be ahead of time. You see what I'm saying? So this is why you hear me teach as I do about the concept of time. Yeah, we measure time by cycle ages, but we don't get caught up in the minute, the second, the hour, and all that, and that don't govern nothing that we teaching. You see? This is what we teach over here, family. So if you want to know why Commission demonstrates, this is a part of our paradigm. Y'all ain't never heard this type of teaching before. Ain't nobody never taught you like this. You just don't want to admit it. But I give honors to my Grand National Chairman, man, because he was cold-blooded and is cold-blooded right now with this teaching. We give honors to Walter Williams, too, because that elder 91 years old, and they still can't do nothing with it. And he teaches the same thing. Stay away from that Gregorian calendar and that Gregorian timeline. Ashwar Kwesi said the same thing. European ain't even seen no cycle age in that little calendar they got. That's all I need. I got 3 of my elders right there. They agree with me. Even though they might have different opinions on other things as far as they teaching, they agree with me on this subject here, and that's the consensus I need. And really, it ain't a matter of them disagreeing with each other. It's really just, different unfoldments and states of understanding that the brothers are bringing according to the gifts of their understanding. Because we teach that the gifts of the understanding are the treasures of Allah. So everybody got a right to their own treasure. And nobody got no right to be telling you that you can't mine in your mind and come forth with diamonds and jewels of understanding unless they're your God, unless you believe they're your God. Because you ain't finna tell me that I can't bring forth my gifts of understanding. You ain't finna tell me none of my ancestors and my elders can't bring forth their gifts of no understanding either. So let me leave y'all with this note right here. We got another coming up behind this one too. We're gonna get a little deeper, you know. And this will come probably a little in a few hours. I got another drawing. I'm gonna keep bringing this truth, keep giving it to. I'm gonna drop it like No Limit Records used to drop music back in the day. You know, like our brother Tupac used to go in the lab and come out with 4 or 5 songs. That's how I'm finna start dropping this information on y'all. We finna make it rain. We're gonna make it rain and make it pour. That's what angels do. We're gonna make it rain, but we ain't worried about who get wet or who don't get wet. Our duty is just to make it rain. So if it's meant for you to get something out of this, or you've been looking for this information, here it is. I don't even know who need it, but I know somebody do. To get them some clear conception. You know who you is, and I don't need no credit for it neither. Okay, so it says here in our Moorish Holy Quran, listen. Now you understand why we say in the creation and fall of man. It says, time never was when man was not. What is being referred to here, family? That means that we've been in existence long as time has been in existence, because we've been in existence before time came into existence. When we deal with being flesh divine, when we deal with being etheric beings, you hear how people like to talk about we come from the stars. You see, we stardust. You know what I mean? Make it make sense now. So when I say time never was when man was not, and we always existed, then you shouldn't have no problem with that. You shouldn't be hollering pseudo then. Or that don't make no sense, because our ancestors definitely taught that we've been here from the beginning. I don't care what the Europeans say or anybody that like them say, because we got a doctrine for those who are cast out and those who accept their teachings too. So anyway, it says, if the life of man at any time begin, a time would come when it would end. The thoughts of Allah cannot be circumscribed. You can't put no capsule on the thoughts of the Supreme Being. It says, no finite mind can comprehend things infinite. All finite things or finite things are subject unto change. All finite things will cease to be because there was a time when they were not. The bodies and the souls of men are finite things. Yeah, this body got a limitation on it. They change. You come from a state of being infancy to being a grown man, being old, decrepit, and you die. You hump the ground. So that's not infinite. You see, they change, and yeah, they change from the finite point of view, or finite point of view. The time will come when they will be no more. But man himself is not the body, nor the soul. He is a spirit and a part of Allah. So if you're a spirit and part of Allah, and Allah always existed, then that means you too had to always exist, right? See, they don't teach you this in religiosity. So it says, creative fate gave to man, spirit man, a soul, that he might function on the plane of soul, and gave him a body of flesh, that he might function on the plane of things made manifest. Why did creative fate give the spirit man a soul that he might function upon the plane of soul? Why did creative fate give the soul a body of flesh that he might function upon the plane of things made manifest? You know, that's a question. And I can tell you why creative fate gave the spirit man a soul that he might function on the plane of soul. The soul in its actions are thinking, willing, reason, understanding, remembrance. The soul is found in the consciousness of the living being. So spirit man was given a soul that he may be able to function within the realms of his own consciousness, that he may be able to make or mar his personality by his own thinking, his own ways, his own acts, his own deeds. And while he is in the plane of things made manifest as a fleshly being, he can also tap into what they call in the Quran the divine high council on high. You know, the exalted council on high. Some people like to call them ascended masters. In Africa, we call them the ancestral plane, like you seen on Black Panther. I always make that reference because that's what most of our people, they can get that because they done seen it. When T'Challa went and spoke with his ancestors, that's why we was given a soul, to be able to speak to the ancestors. And this is why we say Prophet Noble Ali is working from the same plane of soul, because he's teaching the Moors from the plane of soul. If you say that you deal with Afrocentricity and you don't believe that, you're a liar. How you going to be atheist and you don't believe in African spirituality and something beyond the plane of things made manifest? Make it make sense. You hypocrite, you. We ain't got nothing but scimitar talk for y'all from here on out. You know, so I'm going to slow the ethers down a little bit, family, but they stir me up because I hate people misleading my people, misguiding my people. You know, them days over with, family. So, you know, we just want to give honors to our family and just say gratitude, you know. So this is our particular measure that we given, you know, in regards to dealing with this concept of the time, you know, and you know, our family should have a clear insight. And now you know where Brother Commission coming from. When I say what I say, I do want to pull this up too, because when I had posted this, you know, May 18, 2022, the Damari Yuga calendar, you know, that we calculate according to, I drawed here, you know, a particular measure on it. And I say Moors measure time by cycles, you know, and ages as it relates to the event and not the mere measurement or distance of a span. You know, time never was when man was not. As the concept of past, present, and future are rooted in Maya, illusion, right? Allah and man is the supreme reality. It says, yet I present this calendar that we may record our earthbound events accordingly. And this is Adar in Arabic, absolute time and reality of the world's time. So I went on and I did some quoting on some of the measures dealing with the teachings of Al-Islam dealing with time. And it says Adar, absolute time. This is according to Allah and his time, reality of time. In Islam, we have a belief that time is Allah. Prophet Muhammad narrated from Allah in the Hadith Qudsi, mankind abuses time, and I am Adar, time. So if you abuse time, you're abusing the great God. You see? It says the words abuses time is in reference to wasting a lifetime with minute or no focus on our ultimate destination of the hereafter. It says Adar is also one of the beautiful names of Allah. So this is one of the 99 attributes of Allah, time, right? Absolute time. So everything happened within the realm of the consciousness of the divinity of the creator himself, or unlimited time. There is no limitation that the great God Allah put on you. You put it on yourself. It is this reason why every creation of Allah, whether it is a star, an asteroid in space, a rock, tree, animal, or even humans, all have times assigned to each of them from Allah, the source of all time, the absolute time. The individual time assigned to each creation during their temporal existence on earth or in the space is limited period called life. This limited period ends with the life of each. This temporary time is also mentioned in the Quran by the term asr, temporary time. That's one of the states of prayer, right? It says to distinguish it from Adar, absolute time, consider the flight of time. Really, man is bound to lose himself. This implies wasting ourselves by overtly investing in all potential toward the dunya, the world of materialism, with little or no focus on the hereafter. That's that scientific mind. They don't care nothing but about what's material. It says, with technology, we have cut months of journey into hours, and hours works into seconds, attempting to make more time available, yet we notice our inability to evade time and live more. Time continues to evade us, just as the prophet predicted. Time will pass quickly. See, this is why we say we don't get caught up into the devil's clock when it comes to him collecting time in his timeline. This is the real absolute time. Absolute time is you're behind came here at a time and you're behind leaving here. Outside of that, no other time ain't gonna matter to you because you won't be here to see it, will you? So it says the hour will not come until time is constricted. A year like a month, and a month like a week, and a week like a day, and a day like an hour like the flare of the fire. Time constricted is observable in our age when comparing our ability to write with that of the famous 14th century scholar jurist Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya, author of Zaid al-Ma'ad, thousands of pages, work written while traveling from Damascus to Makkah, from Hajj, from memory only. Consider Fatima of Cordova, or Andalusian Sufi saint, despite 95 years old, looked 14. So replenished was she with the love of Allah. This is because whose major concern is Adar term are able to achieve miracles for himself. For them time becomes blessed and expanded. Such are glimpses of the afterlife experience where time will cease to exist, becoming eternally blessed. Aging and death, it says, will be experienced no more. So with that being said, family, I just want to say gratitude to you. And we here to uplift fallen humanity. We're going to always set the record straight. And all you got to do is go and research, because I'm putting the sources up here. And the general opinion of men will never alter the nature of truth. Just because you disagree with it, don't make it untruth. You just disagree with it. And your opinion is no lesser or greater than mine. You just disagree with what I choose to. Different between me and you is Commission don't go out disagreeing with people because he has his own position. He has his own thought pattern. I don't have to, because when you do that, it's like an insecure man. Every time his woman goes somewhere, he got to go with her because he ain't sure that she belongs to him and he belongs to her. So that's your insecurity that causes you to measure your intelligence by what you hear me presenting. That ain't got nothing to do with me. And I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm going to keep teaching my people. So I want to give honors to all of my family that's right here listening. And I want to give honors to everybody that showed up, even the ones that's there in the audience didn't really announce themselves. Peace and love to you as well, family. Give honors to our good brother, the real cleanup. Peace to you as well, Lord. Honors to the brother Noble Brian. Always showing up. My brother be up here every time I'm getting it down. You know what I mean? And he can guarantee you one thing about me, I'm consistent, family. I'm consistent by what I say. I don't never get up here and double talk. I know y'all trying to find some way to attack what it is I demonstrate. And you got the lie to do it. You know what I mean? But that make you look bad. Because the people that's listening to me know exactly what I mean. And a lot of time I ain't even got to get down in the comments now. Because they going to put you in check. Because they know what I said. You see? So this is just another measure to add to the collection and the information, family. We just want to say gratitude, Islam, to your brother, Darvis. If you were there and you seen this measure, is grand. But if you didn't, go back to look at it, bro. Because we talking about why we measure time by cycle ages and not the Gregorian timeline. This is a powerful measure. That way they don't be asking me for no Gregorian timeline. We got our own time and calendar we deal with. So we love you, family, and everything it is that you bring on the manifest. And we're going to keep uplifting fallen humanity. Islamism without the schism. Because that's Aliism. So what I'm going to do at this time, I'm going to take our people out with some good Moorish music. As we always do. For those who haven't heard it, we're going to bring our people into a clear insight, when it comes to this information. So that being said, it's all honors and love. And whenever y'all feel like y'all want to chime in, family, you can chime in, give your input, whatever the case may be. And matter of fact, before I even put this song up here, let me see, because we can see if our family might be trying to get up here and get a particular measure in regards to dealing with this time. So if you want to, you just click the link, family, and come on up in here. With questions, critique, criticism, we allow that here. We ain't gonna kick you off the panel because you disagree or none of that. We ain't gonna get mad and try to talk over you. We're gonna hear you out. We're gonna show you what real decorum look like. It's easy to show decorum when you in somebody else's house, but how can you demonstrate? Do you demonstrate the same decorum when you run in your own house? When you invite your guests up in here, can you demonstrate decorum then? Because a lot of our people like to control the narrative when they invite you in their house because you disagree with them. I don't do that right there. I hear the people out. I don't have a problem with somebody disagreeing with me. So, okay, we're going to give our family a couple of more seconds here, see if anybody clicking that link. If not, we're going to close this demonstration out. Like I said, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to family. And my website or this particular YouTube site anyway is the same as my name. It's Commission Adept Harrison. So if you want to direct people to this content, direct them to this. Every chance you get when you in social media, share it on your platform. Share it on your YouTube pages, your Twitters or wherever you go, so that our people can hear this information. Because that's what we're here to do, uplift fallen humanity. So, okay, I figured now that, our family ain't really planning on coming up in here. So we're going to take our people out just like we said we would, with some good Moorish music, and all is well. All is well. So let me bring this measure on the manifest.
Cast from heaven into hell, we a product of prison. All I hatred for the system, we unloaded from pistols. Deep within that dark chamber was the seed of my anger. Hopeless black souls in danger, even God was a stranger. Before we came in this world, devils plotted to hang us. Faith in the gospel of Nat Turner, blazing our burners. Moses seen a burning bush, I believe it was George. She the Uncle Tom and Fugazi, nigga, slave employed. And all that talking about trapping don't certify your gangster. Cause I know plenty pushovers who claim they gunslingers. Commercializing the streets, call me the Punisher. Cause I'm back to punish you perpetrators, ain't one of us. In new flesh, I'm the thoughts of God and Malcolm and Dewey. I'm a southern street, but God a governor until they do me. And I'm integrated with struggle until my dying days. You can take a third from the street, but not as gutter ways. I'm street incarnated.
Peace and love, family. Want to give honors to you for showing up and showing out, as you always do, family. And we just say, Unqua Jet Seneb, life, health, and prosperity be upon you all. Shemotepu, peace from the ancestors I offer you, coming through the lineage of divinity of the ancient gods, so to speak, or the deities, that brought all this stuff into being in the first place. So salute to your family. We'll see you again in a few hours because we got another measure we're going to bring forth. Some more bones we got to pick out of the fish, so to speak. And all is well. And yeah, Brother Darvis Baylock, brother, check it out. We're going to go live again later. So we give honors to you, brother. This is a powerful bill. Go check it out, brother. It's straight fire. You know what I mean? So peace and love, family. We love you.